Okay, mighty companions, I'd love to start on time if at all possible. This is going to be a deep night. I can tell it's going to be a deep night by the vibe of the people that come in the room. And all of y'all came in a deep energy.
I'm just gonna lay on the floor right now and get comfortable.
Just go ahead and go to sleep on the floor right now before we even get started. Just it's okay.
So that way I won't torture myself.
It's okay.
Because I know what's going on.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. Let's take a second to realize that this is halftime. You've been out there in the game, and you've been testing everything you've been studying and everything you've been learning since the last time we saw each other. And now you have an opportunity to get out of our regular mind for a minute and get into another state of mind that could be a lot more enjoyable and a lot more peaceful. Am I the only one that wants to do that? You all want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for us to get to that point that we can really enjoy ourselves tonight, we need to let go of the part of us that thinks that you need to believe this first so that we can hear something different. Are you willing to hear something outside of your belief system, maybe?
Yes.
Are you open-minded enough to hear something that might be different from what you believe?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to be on turning inward in the way of mastery. Turning inward in the way of mastery. We're in lesson 17, the journey of the soul. And turning inward is on page 213 in the way of mastery in the book. I'm going to go extremely slow. Tonight. I'm following instructions, and what I mean by slow is I'm gonna go not so fast. And I'm gonna read and clarify some of it, and then we're gonna throw it open for discussion, but not analyzation. Turning inward requires a turning about in the seat of the soul. What is turning about in the seat of the soul? It's you changing the momentum of your consciousness. It's time for us to change the momentum of our consciousness. How do you change the momentum of your consciousness? You change the momentum of your consciousness by turning inward, not outward. One of the good things about the world going batshit crazy is that for a lot of people, it's going to make them make the decision to turn toward the light. It's gonna, all of this fear mongering that's happening in our ego world, for a lot of people, it's going to make them decide to turn inward. So the advantage of everything that's going on in the world right now is that there are going to be more people making an undivided decision to wake up and be more loving. We are being blessed right now through the political process to see the ego totally naked and revealed, the part of us that's afraid and separate. All the unconscious racism, fear, anger, frustration, and guilt is now being thrown up for all of us to take a look at that's going on in the collective consciousness called our own mind. So for a lot of people, they're going to go, there must be a better way. A lot of people are going to go, there must really be a better way. And he says, this is not, going inward is not as an escape from the world. It is not something you have to do every day, all day. But what you do is you spend some time in prayer. And the Course in Miracles says prayer is asking. So you spend time in asking. and in meditation. So I spend time during the day asking for love, asking for peace, and asking for meditation. And it says, you spend time in forgiveness when you turn inward. You spend time breathing, and you spend time relaxing. So to turn inward, you need to relax, you need to breathe, you need to forgive, you need to meditate, and you need to pray. What happens when you pray, meditate, forgive, breathe, and relax? Pray, meditate, forgive. Here's a seat right here, Doc. Bam!
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Put you right over here, close to me.
Hi.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
I'm telling you. Long time no see. Okay. We're in, on page
213.
213 in lesson 17, turning inward. So you begin to allow changes to occur in the choices you are making. So turning inward means you're going to start making different choices, so that your choices come more into alignment. So you have to make new choices that come more into alignment with your growing understanding of yourself. You want to make new choices that are more in alignment with who you are beginning to understand that you are right now. Not who you were yesterday, 10 years ago, but you start to make choices based on your understanding of yourself as what? A creator. See, we are learning that we create our experience through our thinking. That's determining everything that happens to us. So now you need to start making choices from the understanding that you're the one that's creating everything that's happening to you. Everybody with me on that? In other words, there's a difference between continually making choices based on the idea you are a victim of what happens outside of you in the world, and making choices that are in alignment with the idea you're the creator of your experience. And so you begin to change your environment. That's one of the first things that you might do when you start to make your new choices based on the fact that you are powerful and you are a creator. He says that what you're going to do, you may change your physical environment. You may paint the color of the walls in your bedroom a different color. You may do it because it brings a sense of pleasantness to you. He says you change your physical environment completely. You might move into a different apartment. Is it possible, Lord? Sometimes I feel like my apartment was created for me. Many of you know perfectly well that making new choices based on an understanding of who you are now as a creator might mean you change your relationships. You may make some changes in your relationships. And initially, this does make sense. Okay, so is everybody still with me in this on this journey that we're on right now? Okay, how do you change the momentum of your consciousness? By turning inward. How do you turn inward? You spend time praying, meditating, forgiving, breathing, and relaxing. Then you start to make new choices that are more in alignment with the fact that you recognize you create your own reality. And if you're really doing this, you're going to probably start making some changes in your physical environment. Changes also probably in your relationships. You might find that the people that you want to spend your time with will change. But it's not putting down the people that you used to spend your time with. It's not a judgment of them. It's not a criticism of them. It's just that you might want to be around more people that you're in a relationship who are also making new choices based on wanting to align their choices with thinking that they are also powerful and creative. He says, then you realize that you could keep changing your relationship and over again and never get anywhere. So one of the ways you can tell that you might be turning inward is that you realize that it's time for you to settle down. Now that's interesting. What does it mean, time down? That's scary to me. What you mean, time for me to settle down? He says that means be with the one you're with. And settling down means be with the ones you are with. So settling down doesn't necessarily mean just being with one person. Settling down may not necessarily mean I'm settling down with one person. Settling down could mean you're settling down with many people, and yet you utilize your time with people so that you can discover the patterns that are running you. You realize that you're forming relationships with people so you can discover the patterns that are running you. If you are beginning to wake up, you realize that the purpose of your relationships, now you're going to give the purpose to your relationships. You're going to say, I'm going to utilize my relationships to discover what patterns have been running me. I want to find out the patterns I have that have been running me. And so I want all of my relationships to help me get in touch with the patterns that are running me. So now I'm going to settle down with the ones that I'm with so that I can see what patterns are running me with the relationships I already have. Ay, 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 ay. We need to go to Cuba.
Get out of town.
We need to get out of town, Patricia.
Hurry up before that deadline.
So what does that mean? That means that when you're ready to utilize your relationship so that you can discover the patterns that are running you, that means you are ready for self-awareness. It's time for self-awareness. And what is self-awareness? Turning the momentum of the mind back toward the self. So in other words, instead of me trying to judge you and be aware and observing you, I'm now becoming self-observant. I'm getting in touch with my way of thinking, what patterns are running me, and what feelings and beliefs that I have that I need to let go of. So I'm increasing my self-awareness. Increasing my self-awareness means I'm turning the momentum of my mind back on me. And it's time to ask yourself, why do I think what I think? Why do you think what you 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 think? Why did I see what I saw? Why did I see what I saw today? Why did I see what I saw in my friends? Why did I see what I saw in my relatives when I just went to Memphis? I just went this past week and visited my family. And so I have to ask myself, why do I think what I think? Why did I see what I saw? Why did I react the way I reacted to them? So he says those are the three questions that a person that wants to be self-aware begins to ask themselves. Why do I think what I think? Why did I see what I saw? Why did I react the way I reacted? Why do I think what I think? Why do you think what you think? Why do you see what you see? Why do you react the way you react? Okay, I'm going to stop here. What do you think would be a great answer to why do you think what you think?
Because I willingly accepted the teachings of an insane world.
Say that again. That's so perfect. Say that loud, brother.
Because I just bought it. I just, bought the line of bullshit and didn't question it.
That's right. Those of you online as well as those in the room, he basically said because he bought the teachings of the world. And mostly the teachings of the world teaches us how to be worker bees.
Mm.
We're not so much taught to be leaders and creative and self-expressive as we're taught how to conform and how to work for someone. We're taught to be worker bees. Interesting, isn't it? Why do I think what I think? Because of what I was taught. Anybody else? Any thoughts about anything we've covered so far about turning inward? The 3 questions that you ask yourself if you're serious about turning inward. Are any of you going through any of this?
Yes.
I think what I think because I've told myself what I've been telling myself over and over and over again since.
Brilliant. That's another brilliant response. Why do I think what I think? Because of what I keep telling myself over and over and over again. And what is it that I'm telling myself over and over again? What I was taught by the world or my past. Anybody else want to share? Why do you think what you think? Why did you see what you saw?
I think what I think because I'm a powerful creative being and I can choose what I want to think, which is what I'm trying to do now in a more conscious way.
Yes. Yeah. You're a very powerful being and you want to become more conscious of what you're thinking. Great.
Sometimes I think what I think because I want to create this fantasy and want it to be true so bad. But I'm realizing that I'm investing my time in nothing. And something that doesn't exist.
That's what fantasy is. That's deep, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I'm putting all my energy into something that doesn't exist. Trying to satisfy myself according to false needs that I made up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Thank you. Why did you react the way that you reacted today? Anybody? And you know what I'm talking about because I saw you. I'm not just a teacher, I'm a part-time stalker. And I saw you. So why did you react the way that you reacted to that person?
I can apply something specifically and that happened and carried over into today.
Okay.
And now that the question's posed, why did I react the way I reacted is because, using this frame of reference, okay, this grounding, I didn't believe in that moment that I was being loved.
Thank you. So it was what you were believing about yourself in that moment that you reacted the way you reacted. Do you know that's true of all of us? We're always reacting the way we're reacting because of what we're believing in that moment. That's why it's such a trip to see so much of a belief of fear being given right now. Then everybody reacts as if they're in complete terror about stuff that's not happening. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy. What makes us more separate than to feel afraid of each other? So if the part of the divine mind, the mass consciousness, is moving toward joining and oneness, it would make sense that the mass consciousness ego would create fear so that we can react separately from each other. And that's what's going on right now. A mass reacting the way I reacted. Wow.
It's funny because I react most to other people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm just so ready to reject. It's not funny. It's just like, oh, just give me that release. Let me project on you so bad.
I really need to get rid of something. Let me project. Come on, give me some
Come on,
release.
let me project.
Let me project on you, please, please. I'll even be your boyfriend.
Yeah. I think that's why there's so much drama on TV and why it sells so well is because you just want to react to everybody else's reactions.
Mhm.
It's like that release of, oh God, I don't want to be that person.
That's right.
Heaven forbid.
That's right. Woo! Woo! Okay. All right. Okay. That is the end of discussion time. That we were just really discussing. Okay. Eventually, notice that most of these books will say, read me slowly, which drives the ego crazy. Because if we read this slowly, then we'll realize what we're hearing. Because we all know how to read, so we can read fast and not comprehend or hear anything we're saying. Ego likes that. But to break down each individual sentence like I'm doing drives the ego crazy. But it's powerful. It says, eventually the soul that is truly committed to what? To awakening. What does a soul that's truly committed to awakening do? It doesn't flee uncomfortable situations. So if you're truly committed to awakening, you don't necessarily flee an uncomfortable relationship. Until, thank God, until you believe that you have fully extracted all of the wisdom that you can out of that relationship or situation. So you only stay in an uncomfortable situation until you think you've learned everything you can learn from that uncomfortable situation. You only stay in an uncomfortable relationship until you believe you have fully extracted all of the wisdom, all of the power, the truth that you can extract out of that relationship. And there is a way of knowing when that occurs, and we're going to get to that later. In short, when there is just a quiet sense of peace, you can look upon the players and the experiences. You can look upon the players. When you're feeling peace, you can look upon the players and the experiences you just had with perfect equanimity and see the people that you just got through playing with in that situation as perfectly innocent. So when you have forgiven a relationship or when you have forgiven a situation, you can tell because you can look at the people that you were having that experience with and you'll see them as perfectly innocent. That's how you can tell when you fully extracted all the wisdom that you can out of the situation, is that you'll be able to look back on all the players and recognize they are innocent. And you detect that there is nothing in your body that's not at peace. Your heart isn't racing, your shoulders aren't tight. You try to understand that you are not in fear. You truly understand that you're not afraid anymore, and then it's time to move on if you so choose. Because you're not afraid anymore. What? It says you feel no upset in your body, and you're seeing the people that you were playing with in that experience as perfectly innocent because you are coming from a sense of peace, and that sense of peace came from you being truly committed to awakening, which meant that you were committed not to flee from that situation just because it was uncomfortable until you had fully gotten all the wisdom that you could out of that situation. And you'll know when you've done that because you'll look on everybody you were playing that relationship game with and you will see them as innocent and there won't be no fear in your body. I love getting answers, even if I'm not at the point yet that I like them. Or that I necessarily want. But to me, I'm glad to get the answers. So he says, if there is reactivity in the mind because of anything that emerges in your relationship with your brothers and sisters, rest assured, if there's any reactivity, the lesson isn't complete. If there's any reactivity, the lesson is not complete. If you're reacting, then you haven't completed the lesson. If you're still reacting, you haven't completed the lesson. If you're still reacting, you haven't completed the lesson. And if your so-called principles have been violated, then there's a lot for you to learn. So if you're looking at it like your principles have been violated, then there's much you still need to learn. So if there's any reactivity, you haven't completed the lesson. If there's any kind of reactivity, you still haven't completed the lesson of peace. So remember that everything you're going through is neutral. All events are neutral. Everything you're going through is neutral. So in large measure, the process of awakening is a process whereby you dissolve the value you have placed upon certain ideas and perceptions of what life is and what life is for. So when you're waking up, you're dissolving old perceptions you had about what something is for. So if I'm awakening with you, I'm getting rid of all my old ideas about what you are for and who you are. In other words, I'm no longer using you just to make me feel special in some way. I'm no longer just using you for my fantasies. In other words, I've dissolved the values that I put on certain ideas about what life is for and what my relationships are for. So waking up means dissolving of old values. Waking up is the dissolving of old beliefs. Yes, there are times you will be troubled. Please, let's hear that. Yes, there are times when you will be troubled. There will be times when you will be troubled. So don't freak out because you feel troubled. You have been told there's going to be times in which you feel troubled. So the next time that you are troubled, remember you were told there are going to be times that you're going to be troubled. So don't make a big deal out of it, Earl. Stop making a big deal out of being upset. Stop making a big deal out of thinking that you're troubled. I told you you were going to have times that you were going to feel trouble. As you come to realize that what you thought the world was for, everything you have been putting your energy into means nothing. All of a sudden, you're going to feel trouble because when you wake up, you're going to realize you've been putting a lot of your energy into things that mean nothing. You may find out you've been investing all your time in relationships that mean nothing. You may find out you've been putting your energy into a job that means nothing to you. So one of the things that may happen that makes us feel troubled is you're going to realize that everything you've been putting your energy into means nothing. Often this precipitates a period of what has been called by certain mystics the dark night of the soul. So it's not really a dark night of the soul, it's really a dark night of your ego. See, your ego is having a dark night. So when your ego is having a rough time, your soul is healing. So whatever is upsetting your ego is healing to your soul. Wow. Because your ego is beginning to realize it's not in control, it doesn't have the power, it's not who you really are, and that you're more than what you thought you were. And so the way of transformation requires utmost personal responsibility, and the way of transformation requires utmost dedication, and nobody can do it for you. Nobody can do it for you, nobody can do it for you, and so the patterns you feel weighed down by. Now, what are the patterns you feel weighed down by? Well, it's the fears that are yet within your mind. The fears that are yet within your mind will remain with you for all of eternity. The fears that you have will remain with you for all eternity until you decide to heal them. Until I decide to heal my fears, they're going to stick around. So, if you desire to heal your fears, if you desire to let go of your fears, if you desire to let go of your blocks, then how can you tell when you sincerely desire to heal your fears and let them go? you will attract the situations, the teachers, the books, and the experiences that provide you with the opportunity to heal your fears. As soon as you're sincere about healing your lack, healing your fears, healing your loneliness, healing your sickness, healing your sense of separation, it's telling us that then you will attract the situations that will give you the opportunity to heal. You'll attract the teachers, ta-da, that give you the opportunity to heal. You will attract books, ta-da, that will give you the opportunity to heal. And most of all, you will attract the experiences that give you the opportunity to heal. When you stop jabbing around, everything you need to heal anything that's bothering you will be attracted to you. The perfect relationship will be attracted to you when you're ready to heal your fears about relationships for real. There's an acceleration of the healing process. There will be an acceleration of the healing process only when you completely release any value of seeing yourself as a victim. That is the belief that somehow, in some way, someone or something has done something to you. So the acceleration of my healing process will happen as I let go of the idea that anybody's doing anything to me. There's nobody doing anything to me. Class, I'd like to tell you that there's not a soul on the planet Earth that's doing anything to me. Nobody's doing anything to me. Nobody's doing anything to me. And I'm going to say that as sincerely as I can because I want to accelerate my healing process. And to accelerate your healing process is to allow yourself to attract the situations, the teachers, the books, and the experiences that will provide you with the opportunity to heal your fears. Now, there is a simple thought to hear, and one can nod their head. It is another thing to look honestly upon your reactions in life to make sure that you are not at any time, perceiving yourself as a victim. Look honestly upon your reactions and make sure that you're not looking at yourself as a victim. Take a look at what you were just reacting to today and look at it honestly, because if you're looking at any situation that you reacted to today and you're looking at it honestly, you will not be looking at it as if you were the victim of something that someone did to you. So looking honestly at something is the same as taking responsibility for what's happening. So an honest relationship is a relationship where both people are taking full responsibility for what's being co-created in that relationship. Unless both people are taking full responsibility, then there is not an honest evaluation of the relationship or situation occurring. So an honest evaluation of what's going on in the world would be everybody in the world saying they're responsible for everything that's going on in the world. And until all of us say that we are all responsible for what's going on in the world, we have not looked at the situation in the world honestly, and that's why they're terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
Terrorist. That's interesting. So I love it. So the practice of extending love can often teach you that this is so. When you take a situation that pushes your buttons and you don't decide to run away from it, but stay in it, this is going to teach you the truth of your reality. So if you're in a situation that's pushing your buttons, now it doesn't say you're guilty if you flee. Okay? If you decide to flee, you're not guilty. Notice it said, when you take a situation that pushes your buttons and you decide to not flee. It's a decision. You go, you know what? I'm going to stick this out. And many people do that in marriages. That's what they call it, getting married for better or worse. In the sense in those vows. Because they're basically asking you to say, I'm going to make a commitment that I'm going to stay in this relationship even if my buttons are being pushed, because I'm going to utilize this as an opportunity to discover the patterns in me that I need to let go of, and I'm going to stay in this situation until I have extracted every bit of wisdom that I can get out of the situation, and then I might decide to move on and might decide to stay. The reason why you don't have to feel guilty about it is because you'll have an endless opportunity to make those decisions. So you don't have to feel guilty about it. You'll attract another relationship, and you'll have another opportunity to make the decision to see if you want to stick around in order to extract the wisdom out of it. What I try to do is at least stack the odds in my favor by starting out with somebody I like. In who I think we're compatible and have similar views. In other words, what it said at the very beginning of tonight, when it says turn it inward, you might change to make sure you want people who are also making the decision to turn inward and wake up too. So if it's a person like that and we're both committed to the truth, I'm much more likely to say, I will not flee. So the reason why I won't flee is because we're both in an uncomfortable situation, but we're both taking responsibility for being in the uncomfortable situation. And so we're not seeing each other as victims of each other. So it's easy for us to work through our stuff if neither one of us is blaming the other one for what we're going through. That's the only thing that makes it hard to stick with somebody, is usually they're blaming you for what they're going through. But two people in a relationship who have patterns coming up, who are not blaming each other for what they're going through, might feel the discomfort, but they also stick around until they've extracted the wisdom that would allow them to have peace with each other. I don't mind hanging in a relationship with somebody that really wants to take responsibility for what's going on in the relationship as much as I am. What I don't want to be anymore is in relationships with somebody that's blaming me for their unhappiness, just because I'm being who I am. Not because I'm necessarily doing anything wrong or bad. I'm just not doing what you want me to do doesn't mean I'm selfish. Just because I don't express myself the way you want me to express myself doesn't mean I'm selfish. So don't allow people to run their game down on you. You're not being selfish because you don't fundamentally change who you are for another person. You're being selfish if you do. Because you're teaching them that controlling others is the way to happiness. Because you let them control you. So that's why the practice of forgiveness is extraordinarily valuable. In fact, you could say that ultimately the practice of forgiveness is the whole of spirituality. Why? Because forgiveness means to let the world off the hook. I forgive you means I let you off the hook. I let my mama off the hook. I let my daddy off the hook. I let my ex-wife off the hook. I let anyone that I think has ever hurt me in my perception off the hook. What does that mean? I'm going to step out of a sense of having victim consciousness. So letting someone off the hook means you are no longer willing to see yourself as a victim of them. That's letting someone off the hook. What does that mean? You're forgiving yourself. He said, for the perceptions that you've made in error, the perceptions of one's brothers and sisters, of the world, and of God. So what is the error that you're forgiving in yourself? The error that you're forgiving in yourself is the error of believing that you are a victim of someone else. That's the error that you're making, that you're forgiving. Even if it looks like somebody's doing something to you. So it can look like somebody's doing something to you. Nobody's denying that. This is not denying that. But it's saying if you're having an accelerated level of waking up, then you are going to say you are not a victim of it, that you created it.
Earl?
Mm-hmm.
In a prior lesson, there was a statement that I think, I love it. I never thought of it this way, but it was when I forgive someone, what I am doing is no longer holding them responsible for my peace. That's the same thing as letting them off the hook, in my explanation. You're no longer responsible for my peace.
That's right.
I am.
Okay, so this is a perfect segue. Any thoughts, any questions, any ahas that anyone had that they wouldn't care sharing or asking now?
So
Yes.
I have a question, like when you were talking about staying in relationship, you know it's not time for it to be over because you're still having a reaction.
It means you haven't learned the lesson.
You haven't learned the lesson.
Right.
But is it also because you're still seeing yourself in the other person?
In what way?
Like that person is a projection of you.
Is that you're saying? Is that why you would choose to stay in it?
Right.
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons that you're staying in it, because you see some quality in them that you know or don't know is in yourself, and so you feel drawn to it.
Or your ego, right?
Yeah, right, or your ego feels drawn to it. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's if I'm attracted to you and I can't get away from you, it's because I'm seeing in you something that's in myself that I need to deal with. But that doesn't mean I have to stay necessarily. That's what I was saying. Why not set the lesson up that you're committing yourself to stick in uncomfortable situations, but with people who want to take responsibility like you do, and they want to change their mind too. That's a very subtle difference. That's not saying we're not going to be triggered. It already said that a conscious being utilizes a relationship to trigger patterns that they know they're ready to look at and let go of. Okay, let's accept that's going to happen. I call it, I'm attracted to you. All right. Now he's saying, but you're a conscious being, so start entering your relationships consciously. Start making conscious decisions. So I'm saying to you, and it doesn't have to be true for any of you, but I have no desire to commit myself to a primary relationship where the other person is not willing to take equal responsibility for what they're experiencing in the relationship, even though we know we're going to trigger each other, and we've made the decision we're going to hang with each other, even though we're triggering each other, until we get the lesson that we're supposed to learn. That's all the thing I'm saying. Because a lot of people hear this and they'll think it means you're in a relationship with an unconscious person that's constantly blaming and attacking you and doesn't share your goal, and you're supposed to just stick in there as long as you feel uncomfortable in that situation no matter what. I don't agree with that. I think that's a trick when you look at it that way. That's just another way of you hurting and punishing yourself. Unless you consciously, and again, I'm going to say it again, unless you consciously make the decision to stay, right? And then you take responsibility for that decision. So if you do decide to stay with a person who you know is unconscious and blames, then that is your right, but take full 100% responsibility for that choice. That's all. And still you won't be attacking them over and over again because you knew they didn't want to cooperate, but you decided to do it anyway. So it's nothing to get angry at them about. They didn't do you wrong. You made the decision to stay because it was something you wanted to learn. So just own it. And don't be giving them a hard time because they don't have any interest in doing it that way.
I love it. It's
Yeah.
like it's win-win. You can't lose.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's how you can always tell, according to this, when you're hearing the truth. There's no loss.
So what I'm experiencing with tonight in this message is that, I mean, it exists in other teachings, but I'm going to keep it specific to the Way of Mastery, okay?
Wonderful.
Is that the paradigm shift is when, and in the new learning, is to see relationship as a pathway to liberation.
Mm-hmm.
But not many of us do. We just go into it because we think we have sexual attraction or whatever attraction. And then something brought me back to the previous page about in the experiences you have just had with perfect equanimity, and then your capacity to be able to see when someone is perfectly innocent. To me, then, the moment of self-awareness is whenever the trigger comes up in the relationship you've magnetized to you, if you are in an extreme state of aversion to flee or an extreme state to cling, it's not equanimity.
Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, see, that's where I am at in relationship. How to master the equanimity, because I can flee and create new realities.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can show up as more enlightened, evolved realities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty good at that. You know, but the big thing is about aversion and clinging.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because I see your point. It's like, okay, I'm going to be the doormat, right?
No, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
If you decide to stay in a relationship in which you are being a doormat to an unconscious person, you always have the choice to flee. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, It's just telling us that if you want to have an accelerated level of consciousness, you just continually not see yourself as a victim
Right.
of that
And that's the
situation.
equanimity.
And that's the equanimity. You know, because and another way you can look at equanimity is this: everybody in the relationship has the same powers of decision. So we're equal simply because all of us have the power of decision, even though all of us may have different levels of consciousness, which just means we may be on different levels of how we interpret our reality. That's all been on different levels of consciousness, not like high or low. It's just different. So a different level of consciousness just means you have another way of interpreting your experience from the way I interpret my experience. That's all. You know, but it's telling us there are but two ways to interpret your experience when you start to have a spiritual awakening, which is I'm a victim or I'm responsible. Poof, end of, those are the two type of people in the world, period. And what you see on TV is the most projected picture of victim that you can possibly see, magnified. You know what I'm saying? There are over 300 million people in America. 14 people made a transition, and I have tons of compassion, don't misperceive what I'm saying. But there are 300 million people in America, which means the vast majority of people were safe. But to look at the projected fear, we would think we got to look over our shoulder every second that we walk out of the door. And that's what the Course says the ego is. It's just a small little gnat of fear that we magnify into the size of an elephant and then live our lives as if there's so many people out there to be afraid of or not to trust or who don't have good motives. And the truth is, most people do. Most people are trustworthy. Most people are loving. Most people are more willing to try to be sane in a situation that works. We have to not buy the ego's projection, which is what the temptation is to buy into that we're in danger now, that there's something for us to be so afraid of, which makes us feel separate. And feeling separate is how the ego part of the mind, the part that thinks it's separate from God and love, the part of us that thinks it's different and not connected to God and love. The Course and the Way of Mastery teaches that the only way that part of you can exist is through fear and conflict. And so there's a part of your mind and a collective consciousness that has only one goal: to keep us in a state of fear and therefore keep us separate. A conscious being knows this, and they start making choices that are more in alignment with the fact that I'm conscious. You know, I'm conscious now. You're conscious now. You're awake, whether you like it or not. You are awake now. You know, you can still, and I can still pretend that I'm a victim from time to time. But the truth is, you can't get away with it like you used to, even if you try. You know you can't. There's a part of you that knows it's a bunch of crap every time you try to pull it off, and you're really waking up, which is beautiful. That means you're in less danger than anyone. It means you're safer than any type of security organization could ever try to come up with for you. It's good news. Yes, Chris.
Earl, and I really want to thank you for what you're saying, because it's bringing up one of the beliefs, you know, bringing to light one of the beliefs that I just need to let go. And that belief is that, like, if I'm a spiritual person, that I have to, you know, have good relationships with my family and make them work. Because if I don't, then that means that I'm a hypocrite and I'm not following the spiritual path. But what you're saying, you know, that if the person's unconscious and they want to keep blaming me for, you know, their stuff, even after I've acknowledged my error, you know, then I just need to walk away. You know?
Flee.
Yeah.
They use the word flee.
Yeah.
You just walk, you know. And you're right, Chris. That's the key to happiness, brother. What you just got through saying was the key to happiness. Because you're gonna, if you are awake and you're around the parts of yourself that are asleep, then you have to accept the truth for both of you. So even though they may not know that I'm not doing anything to them, I know I'm not doing anything to them. So I can't react to them as if I am doing something to them or that'll convince them they're right. So if you go to apologizing about something you know you didn't do, you're telling the person you did it.
Right.
Which is different from seeing a person's pain and not wanting them to be in pain and asking, how can we do this and see this in another way? But I'm not going to take responsibility for pain I'm not causing.
Right.
That's just reinforcing the error.
That's just reinforcing the error. And so some people think being nice means that even though somebody is blaming them for something that they didn't do, they think being a nice person is apologizing to that person as if they did it, which is telling the person they were right in their error. What you say is, I want to have peace between us in this situation. How can we do that? Which isn't the same as saying you did it to them. You know, I want peace between us. How can we do that? You know, I want you not to go through any pain. How can I help you in that? But that's not me saying I caused it. But if you feel guilty, you know you caused. If you feel guilty, you know you believe you caused it. If you feel guilty, you know you believe you caused the pain. So that's how you can tell what's really going on. When if I feel guilty in my relationship with you, then that means I believe I'm causing you harm. I'm feeling guilty. I believe I'm causing some kind of a pain to you. He said that's why you want to look at that feeling as an error that you'd like to be corrected more so than a guilt you deserve to be punished for. If I'm feeling guilty, somebody's not taking responsibility. That's all it means. I feel guilty, I'm not taking responsibility. Because I could choose not to feel guilty.
Right.
So that's what I mean when I say you're not taking responsibility. You're not taking responsibility for giving a different choice or meaning to that situation.
And there's something I've noticed, my guilt works in layers,
Mm-hmm.
and my guilt likes to use things like spiritual practices against me.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Oh
one.
my God.
Oh yeah,
You know,
that's
like,
great.
okay, I'm supposed to be so responsible
Mhm.
and be so aware of my projection onto the world. And if I'm not, then, you know, well, I failed.
That's
You know?
right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's where I've realized that,
Yes.
that there's the more bold, you know, version of the ego, but there's also the more subtle version
That's
of
right.
the ego where you'll go, oh, I'm practicing this book.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you're not seeing that
Mhm.
you're just torturing yourself with this book.
As a Course in Miracles teacher, I've said for years that the ego sends people to my class.
Right, exactly.
Because it's so obvious from the pain that some people go through when they come to a Course in Miracles class that it's not an enjoyable experience at all for them. It's an experience they use to make themselves afraid, angry, sad, guilty, depressed. So the ego is as attracted to the Course as the Holy Spirit in the person is attracted, but for two different reasons.
Exactly.
Some people come to my class so they can be tortured, and then some people come to my class because it brings them joy. But I can tell the difference between the two, believe me, as a teacher. I can definitely tell who the ego brought to my class and who spirit brought to my class.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I've been noticing that I try to manipulate myself into learning, and I've realized my manipulation is where the whole problem is. You know, it's almost like if I would just, okay, I had a reaction, I projected on that person at that moment, but if I could simply drop it and not go through all those layers, and my ego wants to suck me back in. No, you got to keep practicing. It's like if I could just drop and say I got pissed off. What the hell? You know?
That
If I
is
could have that
practicing.
one little simple moment
Mhm.
where I was like, I got pissed off. I'm
Mhm.
okay with that.
That's right.
You know?
That's you taking responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you
right,
know?
right.
But,
That is practicing it.
yeah, and to me, I had to get to that simple
That's right.
simple
That's
point where
right.
I got pissed off, but it's okay.
That's right.
I got pissed off and it's
He
okay.
says in this book over and over again, you do something crazy and you go, isn't that interesting?
And that's almost, to me, it's almost more me realizing that I'm projecting onto myself in the form of thinking I'm projecting onto the world. It's like this weird, and the ego works on such a subtle level. It really wants to hook me the hell back in.
Well, if it's doing
Yeah.
its job right, you don't know it's hooked you.
Yeah, and it's like I have to
Yeah.
be so vigilant, really, about
That's right.
seeing about what
That's
it
right.
is that's making me
That's right.
so flipping
That's right.
just guilty about the situation of projection in the first place.
That's right.
What, and it's like, oh, And it really, it's so funny how the spiritual course can actually be the thing that makes you feel the most guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use, I should be further along than this. I should be able to forgive faster. I should know, I should be loving everybody as one and singing Kumbaya right now.
Yeah,
You know, and if you're not, or heaven forbid if you get angry, or you cuss somebody out, or you know what I'm saying, or whatever, like you're saying, I call it the spiritual ego. The spiritual ego is the ego that beats you up for not being spiritual enough and for not practicing as well as you think you should. That's the most insidious one of all.
And it's so funny when you get to that simple point about being okay with being pissed off.
Yeah.
You know, like, I got pissed off, but, you know, what are you going to do?
And just think, one day you'll be in a relationship that'll be the attitude that you all have with each other about getting upset in the relationship, which will make it holy. See, one of the most holy relationships you might see might look like two people that are at each other's throat. But you might just be in the presence of two conscious beings who know it's okay to express your feelings without hiding them. But to you looking at it from the outside, you be going, oh, look like they arguing, but that's not what they're doing at all. They just have, their relationship is so solid, and they know that they are going to be with each other no matter what, because they made a conscious choice, that they can say anything that comes up between them. But to somebody on the outside, you know, and that's sometimes what I'm looking for. I want to create relationships where I don't have to be perfect. That my ego can come up and I don't have to always be Mr. Sane, Mr. Spiritual guy, and they realize that that's just the pattern that we got together to have triggered coming up to be released. Because what's the point of being together to utilize the relationship to bring up your triggers, to bring up your patterns so that they can be released if y'all gonna crucify each other every time one of them come up? And so forgiveness would be simply you not crucifying them for having the pattern come up that y'all got together to help each other heal. It's like one time I had a person I was dating take me to a strip club for my birthday. But then got mad at me for looking at the women. Got jealous. She took me to the strip club as a gift to like, know that'd be fun to try something new and different. But then got jealous because I was looking at the women stripping. So you know, so if the pattern comes up, and then you crucify each other for the pattern coming up, what was the point? You know, if you're trying to get over your jealousy by taking me to a strip club, then don't get mad at me for looking at the person that you're trying to overcome your pattern about.
Give me some more dollars.
You know, yeah. And then you find that, you know, then you got the people that judge the strip club. When you spiritual, you don't go to a strip club. You know what I'm saying? That's the same thing we're talking about. It's putting our values and our ideas of what's even spiritual is the spiritual
Exactly.
ego. Like most people think being spiritual means being quiet. You know, but I've said this over and over again, I've felt a lot more spirit in clubs that I've gone to on the weekend to listen to bands than most spiritual groups that I go to that are supposed to be spiritual in terms of people actually extending, reaching out to each other, communicating, laughing, talking, and being open. So what's more spiritual, for us to be together and be afraid of communicating with each other, or to be at a Broncos game and everybody screaming and hitting each other and patting each other on the back? Which one is the most spiritual for real? If you're talking about extension and joining and communicating and being open.
Right.
So what's spiritual doesn't necessarily look like what we call spiritual. Because I saw God in that strip club. I saw God. I did. I promise you, I did.
And it's almost like I think I need to designate where I should find spirituality. It's all just designation. And to realize that if a person gets jealous, that's just fear. Yeah.
That's just a call for love. You know, that's just an opportunity. That's an opportunity for you to heal a fear with them by showing them that you love them in that moment and that they're totally safe and you're not going anywhere. You see what I'm saying? So because I could have my fear triggered in another situation. So I would also want the same thing. So that was an opportunity for me to give what I wanted to receive. And people treat you with so much more love and passion after you've answered their call for love. The fact that you didn't freak out on them, the fact that you did talk to them and say, let's go beyond this together, because I have fears sometimes too. then that person feels even more loved. And if they feel more love, they're going to have less fear. And if they have less fear, then those types of incidents will decrease. So it was an opportunity to alleviate a fear together. You know? Mm-hmm.
Well, and one of the things I'm realizing as you're saying all this is about, like, a lot of times we make ourselves feel guilty over something that doesn't exist.
All the time. Actually.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. All right. Okay, let's go deeper. Anybody else? Anybody else got anything you want to say before we take it a little bit deeper? How you doing? Let me check in. How's everybody doing? Y'all here? Pretty present? I'm finding this very helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
Okay. Thank you. But I'll keep going now. If you had to say the one helpful, I'll turn the end of class right then. Thank God you answered like that. Yeah.
So I just had this huge aha. If we go back to Christine's point about equanimity, it can only come if you choose to be in relationship with another conscious being.
You have to be the course of the
Because if you choose to be with an unconscious being, how can you achieve equanimity? You can't.
It's like purposely choosing to take the hard way.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, it's like somebody sitting down and going, I want to, unless your love for that person, the love that you have is so great that you can overlook their ego. You know, that is possible. It is possible. It is possible that that person could be totally unconscious, but you have so much love for them that you can hold space for their ego. You know? That's why I think that people should only be in intimate, primary, focused relationships with people that they think they love. And not for security, not for any of the other stuff that people come up with. It should be the way I feel about you is why I'm with you. That way, if your ego comes up or my ego comes up, the way you feel about me will help you answer my call for love. But if I don't like you, I'm gonna use it as an excuse to attack you and get away from you as quick as I possibly can. I'm not gonna stick anything out. You know. And I'm innocent. You're innocent. Now don't forget now, you're innocent regardless of whether you stay or whether you go. So that'd be another ego trick to make you go, well, if you leave, you're abandoning them. Remember it said, decide that you want to be.
It's like what's ever more peaceful.
That's right.
Really.
That's right. It's what when you begin to have a conscious awakening, you do more things based on what's gonna give you the most peace than what's right or wrong. Because you're not gonna attack if you're a conscious being anyway. If you're a conscious being, the last thing you're gonna do is hit somebody over the head with a rock. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to worry about a conscious being wanting to mistreat people. So it's perfectly okay for you to make whatever choices you feel like you said, stick around until you think you've extricated all the wisdom you can out of that particular situation. And the ones you have, you might move on or you might stay, but you won't be unhappy. You'll be glad to. As a matter of fact, you'll have so much compassion and love for that person that you want them not to be in pain. So instead of them making you mad, they would just draw your compassion in their fear. That's interesting. You know what I'm saying? I would hope that if I was sitting up here and I was afraid of you all right now, that you wouldn't all throw rocks at me. That you would it would draw some kind of compassion out of you.
They also give me the opportunity to see myself. You know, that in that moment I have the ultimate opportunity to see myself.
Absolutely.
When somebody pushes my button.
Absolutely.
It's like boom, that's when I'm really there.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
not when I'm pretending to be there and all nice. It's when I'm really there because that's what I'm dealing with.
sometimes you want to take a little break, a little vacation from having your patterns revealed and your buttons pushed. You call that being single.
I've been taking a long break.
Right, you've been taking a long break. And then you get to a point that you go, okay, all right, I'm ready to have some more patterns triggered for me to heal and release. And then all of a sudden the perfect person shows up. you know, because it's cool when you live by yourself. I love living by myself. But I also know that there are things that won't get triggered that might be going on inside of me that I don't even know is there. So I'm very conscious that I'm not in a triggering situation right now. But what I'm doing while I'm not in a triggering situation is I'm doing this. I'm studying, I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm going within, so that when I'm ready to get the next level of my patterns released, I'll know how to answer calls for love, I'll be able to take responsibility, I want to communicate with them. You see what I'm saying? I'm getting the tools that would make me a really cool person to be in that type of relationship with. So I'm not just out of a relationship doing like most people, not working on themselves until the next one shows up. Then they go through the same pattern all over again because they didn't do anything to change their mind in the meantime. So a lot of people think they're ready for a new relationship just because it's been so long since they had one. That's the only requirement. I haven't had one for a long time, so I must be ready for one now. But really it's like, am I willing to consciously take responsibility, enter this relationship, and make choices that are in alignment with the person I understand myself to be right now. So what would that mean? What it would mean if I go into a relationship, I'm going to share with that person what my values are, what my beliefs are, what my purpose is, and what I'm trying to express right now. So that they can make an informed decision beyond our attraction, so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not they could decide to not flee when there was trouble. Because they know that who I basically am and I know who they basically are is something compatible with me that I feel peace about. And so it's got to be more than, damn, she fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or he hot. You know, it's like, we got to step it up more than that now. There are lots of pretty bodies. There are all kinds of bodies. There's no lack of bodies. What there's a lack of are people with some damn sense.
Yeah.
There are plenty of bodies. I haven't met a person yet without one. And I'm looking forward to the day I do. And it's going to be pretty soon based on my next birthday. So let me tell you. Oh yeah, next Tuesday is my birthday.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And so I'm still going to do my class because I couldn't think of a better thing to do on my birthday than to focus on God and the truth. So love to have you here if you are so moved to be here. But I just wanted to let you know, class is still on. I consider you my birthday present.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to unwrap all y'all. Oh, he didn't say that, did he? I can't believe it. You know. Unwrap the ego off of you. Unwrap the fear off of you. Unwrap the guilt off of you. The guilt off of me. The separation. That's the unwrapping that I feel the most innocent about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, just wanted to say that. Thank you for being my presence. Check that out. Presence. Presents. That's what I want. Presence. That's what I want to call people. My presence. To remind me to stay now with them. To not bring my past into this moment with you so I can see you. Because I can't see you if I bring up my past and cover you up with my past experiences of people who look like you.
That's true.
I want to see who you really are on the other side of my judgments. You know what I mean? So, okay, then let's go a little bit further. I think we're going to get a chance to take this whole ship on in. Ultimately, forgiveness is forgiveness of oneself for what? Ever allowing delusion to settle into your own mind. So what is a delusion? What is a delusion that you've allowed to settle into your own mind? You perceive yourself as separate from God. So delusion is you thinking that you are not connected to your source. Delusion is thinking that you are not connected to love. Being delusional means you thinking that you're not connected to me and I'm not connected to you and we're not all connected to each other, separate from each other, capable of being victimized. So a person who is delusional would be anybody that you would meet who would think that they were separate from God and separate from you and a victim. That's a delusional person. Forgiveness, when you complete it, you feel love, which means you feel free. So with a person that you love, you feel free. With a person that you love, you feel light and you feel free. So how can you tell how free you feel with the person? Here's a good way. Think of love as unlimited communication without fear. And if you look at love as unlimited communication without fear, you can know moment to moment who you love and who you're afraid of. The person you have the most private thoughts around is the person you're most afraid of losing and the most afraid of. The person that you're most secure with will be the person you have the least amount of private thoughts with. Most special relationships have many more private thoughts than friendship relationships. You'll tell your friend something you never tell your lover or your mate because of the fear of loss. So in a sense, the more special you are to each other, the more tempted you will be to have private, secret thoughts from each other. That's almost like the price you pay for making each other special, is that you become so afraid of losing each other that you don't feel as free to share all of your thoughts. So that's my test. I always go, am I feeling self-conscious about communicating with this person? Am I feeling afraid to share some experiences that I've had or some things that I've been thinking? So the perfect person for me, to me, would be someone I'm not afraid to communicate with. Anything. That's for me. So I would invite you to do the same thing. Come up with the thing that you use to test a relationship to see if it passes the test of what would make you feel safe enough to want to be in it. You know what I mean? But that's a real simple one. Am I holding back my thoughts that I want to say to you? Then I'm not really, and I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about stuff like I don't like your dress. You know, I'm not talking about that level. You know, a lot of people want to bring it down to that level. Well, suppose you do that. You don't like the cake they cook. You know, it's like, come on, give me a break. You know, we talk. Let's go deeper. It doesn't. You know, the truth is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you like the cake or not. That's the answer to that one. It doesn't matter whether you like the dress. It doesn't even matter whether you say you like it or don't like it. It doesn't even matter if you say you like it and you don't like it. It doesn't matter. That doesn't have anything, like you said, with the ego, you realize you're making yourself always focus energy on what means nothing. Because ultimately that means absolutely nothing to your salvation as to whether or not you like my sweater. So it really don't matter whether you say you like it or not. But I'd probably say I like it. If it doesn't matter, why not say something that's loving? Because it doesn't matter. But if it does matter if you're trying to get me to see myself as a victim. It does matter if you're trying to keep me from seeing myself as the creator of my experience. I'm not going to compromise on that. So it says, beloved friends, look well to see, where am I perceiving myself as a victim of the world I see. So where are you seeing yourself as the victim in your life? Then ask yourself, am I feeling constrained in my relationship? In not just romantic relationship, any relationship. Are you feeling constrained? Like I'm here tonight in relationship with you. How much am I holding myself back now? How constrained am I feeling? Am I constrained in how I talk to you? I love to curse. In the right moments, I think they're just the perfect little, you know, it's like pepper on an egg. You know, it's like sometimes some things you just need to put a little spice in the way you see it. You know what I'm saying? For me, you know, everybody don't feel that way, but that's the way I am. But because of the teacher thing and how people who see themselves as being very powerful beings crumble at the sound of a word, I'll find myself not saying certain things in certain way, and I can feel it every time I'm behaving as I think I should, without really wanting to. It feels like a strain. So I'm doing that to myself, and I'm taking full responsibility for that. And when I think I have nothing to lose, I will communicate freely. Because that's when people are most free with you, is when they think they have nothing to lose. That's why at the breakup of a relationship, you ought to tell each other the most honest things that you've been feeling about each other. Because at that point you have nothing to lose. So you would tell them everything you've been holding back that you didn't tell them. So when you no longer believe in loss, you will be completely open and honest. See, if I knew I couldn't lose, I wouldn't care what I said to you. So there's some part of me that believes I could lose something by talking just the way I want to talk all the time. So one time in Memphis, when I was at a center in Memphis and I was doing teaching, I had a Friday night that was an R-rated night, an R-rated class that people came to. It was one of the most fun classes that I've ever had, because it was understood that there was no censorship coming down. And it was incredibly joining.
Wow.
Yeah, because people were able to talk like people talk, instead of talking like they think spiritual beings talk. And some spiritual beings sincerely talk like that, really proper and prim, and that's fine. But all of us don't. All of us don't. And I've always tried to be the teacher for the people who would just want to be just people. And they weren't trying to act like what they think a spiritual person acts and talks like. Because spiritual people don't talk about sex. Spiritual people don't talk about money. They don't talk about power. They don't talk about careers. You know, it's like there's a lot of artificial how spiritual people are supposed to talk. And I want to bring the truth to the day-to-day things that I deal with in my perception of myself as being a human being. If I can't apply this to everything in my life, it doesn't have any true value to me. If I have to separate sexuality or money, that's the other thing. Spiritual people don't talk about money. Think about it. As a matter of fact, I go so far as to say that people talk about everything before they'll tell you about their money. They'll tell you about their sex life, their marriage, their job, their illnesses, but very few people are going to tell you, I make $52,300 a year. Most people are very secretive about their finances. And if you go into a bank, if you close your eyes, you think you're in the church. People whisper. Because we worship money. So it's just like going into the ego's cathedral. Yeah, and it's the truth. We worship money over in the West, especially. It's ridiculous. They, so-and-so, he's worth $2 million. We literally decide people's value by how much money they have in this country. Amazing. Amazing. Guess what? I'm not a victim of that. And you aren't either. So we just accelerated our learning.
Yes.
Right? Okay, let's give it up for us. Let's stop right here. Oh. Okay, let's do the financial expression of responsibility. The financial expression of appreciation. I always remember, I always receive exactly what I ask for every class.
I have to give up my wishes.
That's right. So thank you for sharing financially with me. Those of you online that would like to also do that, because I am a full-time teacher of this Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery, you can go to my website at earlpurdy.com and you're able to share there, and I really appreciate it. Those of you who'd like to have a one-on-one session with me called a clarity session, just go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and it explains it in detail. And I can work with you and therefore work with me through whatever your block is, whatever the pattern is, whatever it is that you want to let go of. There's another way to look at it. And so I'm here to help with that. So Sunday at 1 o'clock is the Course in Miracles. I'll be speaking at the 11 o'clock service also on Sunday. So I'll be speaking at 11 and at 1 o'clock. Okay, thank you. One of the realizations that I made tonight, let's wind it up a little bit. I want to share this question, or I didn't get to the last one. Where am I perceiving myself as a victim of the world I see? Am I feeling constrained in my relationship? Do I resent, it says my spouse, but I like to say it this way. Do I resent someone? Is there someone you resent right now? Is there any relationship that you feel limited and constrained in right now? And where is it that you are seeing yourself as a victim? Would you like to know where that is? Real quick. It's wherever you're not feeling peace. Any area of your life that you're not feeling peace in right now is an area where you're perceiving yourself as a victim. And it's also the area where you feel constrained. And it's also the area where you feel resentment. If you hear about somebody inheriting $100 million, do you feel happy for that part of yourself? If you were honest, would you admit you feel a little resentment and a little envy?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then where do you feel constrained? What relationships do you feel really free in? And what relationships do you have that you know that you haven't really revealed yourself? Because you feel constrained. It's different. There's a difference in not revealing something just because you choose not to, and not revealing something because you're afraid to. Those are two different. So I'm not saying you tell everybody every thought you have about everything. Most people don't want to hear it no way. You know, to be perfectly honest, you know, they wouldn't really want to hear it. So one of the things I realized tonight, something that you realized tonight that would be a blessing for you to say it out loud so you know you'll remember it better. Yes.
This has been so helpful because I've just been really having the realization of this and seeing the results of it by me changing my perception of my relationships and the relationships I've struggled with for the last couple of years. I've noticed they're becoming more peaceful as I change my perception of them and of the people. They're just so much more peaceful. And
Isn't it
so
amazing how you changed your mind
yeah.
and then it looked like the people changed?
Yeah, it's amazing that, you know, it really, the only thing that's changed is me. and it's changed the entire dynamic of our relationship.
Has anybody else had that experience that looked like people around them have changed since they've been working on themselves and yet they didn't come to no class?
Yeah, they won't come to I can't
because they weren't the ones that needed to come. That's why they don't come. It's like, it's not for me, baby, it's for you. You know, thank you. Anybody else have any realizations tonight that they wouldn't mind saying out loud so they can remember it and share it with us?
When my ego is having a rough time, my soul is healing.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah. Because your ego having a rough time means that there's some way that you've been deceiving yourself that you're beginning to realize. The dark night
It's
of the
time
soul.
to settle down and be with the ones I'm with. And not go out and try and create new experiences all the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, once you get serious about awakening, he says, then you automatically attract the people that's giving you the opportunity to do it. So that would have to be you. You already here. Thank you. Anybody else?
When are we gonna have an R-rated?
Early 2016. I gotta do it. I'm gonna explode if I don't do it soon. So don't worry. I am gonna have one. I am gonna have one. Yes. Yes, I'm gonna have a little arm tags and show me some license and everything. Everything. We're gonna have a good time.
Is that one going on YouTube?
Yeah, it's gonna go on YouTube too.
Awesome.
It's gonna go on the dark web. There's a whole nother internet they call it dark web, And, yeah. But hey, Richard Pryor's on the internet, and he speaks any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So because it's on the internet, doesn't mean I have to not do it. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I want to do anyway. I want to do classes for many different mental and emotional types. Because I'm multidimensional. So there's a quiet Earl, there's an extroverted Earl, there's a serious Earl, there's a crazy, you know what I'm saying? So I want to do, there are people who would match that way of expressing myself. So it's nothing wrong with you having a multidimensional way that you express yourself to the world. Because there'll be people who are attracted to those different aspects of yourself. So people who would never listen to serious Earl would listen to the genuine part of Earl that likes to just playful. But serious Earl also likes an opportunity to express himself too. Quiet one as well as the extroverted one. So I love that. So that's how I invite you to be with me. I invite you to express yourself in a variety of ways, which would simply be, I'm inviting you to just be authentic when you walk through the door and just be however you happen to feel. If you feel up, that's great. If you come in and you're hurting, you don't have to pretend you're happy with me. That's a variety of expression. And that's what I would love to do. And that's how I'd love to be. And so I'm going to get what I want to receive. That's what you're doing, and that's what I want to do. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes.
I love your sweater.
You love my sweater?
I just wanted to say.
You love my sweater? I love you
I
too.
do.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look what she did. I know. That's right. I got a couple of obscene puppets I'm going to teach through too. I've already got them. I've just been waiting for the right time to spring them on everybody. But there's a lot of surprises in store for you guys. You have no idea. As I feel innocent, watch out. That's all I got to say. The more innocent a person feels, the more fun you're going to have with them. I guarantee you. Back over there, I can feel something. Somebody got something to say. I can feel it.
I'm responsible. When I'm responsible, I'm not a victim.
That's right. That's right. You're on the accelerated learning curve. Right? Okay. It's okay. Take a breath. I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Forgiveness is forgiveness of oneself, forever allowing delusion to settle into your mind. So forgive yourself, forever allowing delusion to enter into your mind. What is the delusion? 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 The delusion is seeing yourself as separate from God. Delusion is seeing yourself as separate from your brothers and your sisters. That's the delusion, is to see yourself as separate from your brothers and your sisters and God. The delusion, what is the delusion that you're forgiving yourself for? What is the delusion you are forgiving yourself for? You are forgiving yourself for seeing yourself as capable of being victimized. Forgive yourself for seeing yourself as capable of being victimized. Forgive yourself for allowing yourself to feel capable of being victimized. You can choose to stay with the one you're with and allow your patterns to be brought up and healed and released. You can make the decision to stick it out and allow your patterns to come up to be released, or you can choose out of it and consciously enter a relationship or friendship where you have confidence that you and that other person are going to consciously trigger each other in order to bring up the patterns that need to be forgiven and released, not argued over. not blaming each other over. You are ready for accelerated learning. You are ready for accelerated learning. So in order to turn inward, this is what you do to turn inward. To turn inward, you spend time in prayer, meditation, forgiveness, breathing, relaxing, 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 prayer, meditation, forgiveness, breathing, and relaxing, and start making choices more in alignment with an understanding of who you are today, right now. Start making choices that come more into alignment with your growing understanding of yourself as a creator right now, who you are right now. Mighty companions, you are such a friggin' blessing. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And may the course be with you. Let's acknowledge us for being so cool. This was really great. Thank you so